people like him are attractive to the CIA because the CIA does need a patsy when they do these operations. They do need that element of denial where they can just say, no, it wasn't us. It was this nut from North Carolina. Look, he's got a long history of mental illness. We didn't know what he was doing. He came to us and we said, no, you're nuts. We don't want to work with you. Well, in fact, they probably had been working with him for years.
So Ryan Routh, ladies and gentlemen, the guy who was trying to shoot Trump at his golf course in Florida.
Oh, how's he doing?
He was found guilty of trying to assassinate Trump in Florida. No kidding. No kidding. A federal jury convicted Ryan Routh, an itinerant, is that how you pronounce that? An itinerant building contractor. Really? It says he's an itinerant builder. I guess that's his part-time job. His main job was a CIA hypno-idiot. 59-year-old itinerant building contractor. He couldn't be more of a patsy if he started climbing up the country charts singing Crazy. Are you kidding? How do we know that he's a patsy? Because we're hearing about him. You never heard about the real guy. You should know that by now, right? So here's what the New York Times says about this. A man who plotted to kill President Trump last year and staked him out at one of his Florida golf courses with a semi-automatic rifle was found guilty on Tuesday of attempting to assassinate a major presidential candidate, a charge that carries a maximum penalty, life in prison. His name is Ryan W. Routh, 59, an itinerant building contractor from North Carolina, was also found guilty of assaulting a federal officer and several firearms violations. Really? Okay, well, the 12-member jury deliberated for about 2.5 hours following a fast-moving trial in which Mr. Routh chose to defend himself without a lawyer. So, if this guy's on MKUltra or whatever they're calling it today, after the verdict was read in court, Mr. Routh appeared to try to stab himself in the neck several times with a pen. Several United States Marshals restrained him and removed him from the courtroom. He returned a few minutes later, shackled and escorted by Marshals. His necktie and jacket had been removed, but he did not appear to be injured. Well, that's nice. Isn't that nice to know? Interesting defense strategy. Prosecutors said that on September 15th, 2024, Mr. Routh pointed his rifle with its serial number scratched off at a Secret Service agent who spotted him in the shrubbery at the Trump International Golf Club, West Palm Beach. He denied that he ever took aim at anyone. The agent fired at him, and Mr. Routh fled without firing any shots of his own. The police stopped him about 45 minutes later, driving north on Interstate 95. I'm pretty sure he didn't have license plates. It's foggy, but I'm pretty sure. Make no mistake, the defendant was going to kill Donald Trump, Christopher B. Brown, one of the federal prosecutors, said during the closing argument. The defendant was just one bullet away. Attorney General Pam Bondi said in a statement after the verdict that Mr. Routh's conviction illustrated the Justice Department's commitment to punishing those who engage in political violence. This attempted assassination was not only an attack on our president, but an affront to our very nation itself, she said. Oh, she's very good. The rare trial of would-be presidential assassin was made more unusual because Mr. Routh chose to represent himself without a lawyer. His decision made the trial a lopsided one from the start when Judge Aileen M. Cannon cut off Mr. Routh's opening statement for lack of relevance. Mr. Routh's brief cross-examination of prosecution witnesses and the small number of defense witnesses he called made the trial much shorter than expected, lasting just 12 days. Well, I just wanted to let you know there's some weird stuff about this guy. So this is one of the weird things about him. He's been arrested like 100 times and he's never spent any time in jail. And
yeah, gunfights with cops in North Carolina. So that's a normal thing, right?
This is originally from 2002, was updated in 2015. An armed man was arrested Monday morning after barricading himself in a business during a 3-hour standoff. Ryan Routh, he was 36 then, was arrested without incident at 1 a.m. Monday at United Roofing. Greensboro police said Routh was pulled over about 10 p.m. Sunday during a traffic stop, but he put his hand on a firearm and drove to United Roofing, where he remained barricaded inside. He was charged with carrying a concealed weapon and possession of a weapon of mass destruction. A weapon of mass destruction. So what does that mean? Did he have a bazooka? It was a fully automatic machine gun. He was also charged with resisting, delaying, and obstructing a law enforcement officer and driving while license was revoked. Well, that's really unforgivable. Driving while his license is revoked. Come on. So here's what Mike Benz has to say about this.
So Ryan Routh was basically, the 37th leg of a CIA paramilitary recruiting operation to top up human meat fodder in Ukraine. And he was working with the State Department to try to convert these passports into no-look visas for these fighters. And he was flagged by Customs and Border Patrol in June 2023 for this operation. It was referred to DHS HSI, the same group that basically is implicated, at least in an indirect fashion, but potentially even in a direct fashion in both assassination attempts. HSI refused to interrogate Ryan Routh when he returned to the country, despite being flagged to do so by Customs and Border Patrol. The guy has been arrested almost 100 times in his life, but never spent a day in jail. And most importantly, 2.5 weeks ago, this Justice Department made a public statement saying it is seeking an indefinite delay of the trial of Ryan Routh because of complex evidence. And you know why that is? It's because the complex evidence will reveal that Ryan Routh was working his way through a CIA, DOD, State Department operation to militarily recruit terrorist fighters into Ukraine, which is a major international incident. If revealed, the Justice Department is protecting the CIA and the DOD because actually interrogating the sources of funding behind Routh, actually interrogating his human network is going to implicate the intelligence community and the Defense Department, and that is the second job of the DOJ. The first job is putting away the bad guys, but the second job is to CYA, cover the arse of the intelligence community and the DOD so that the blob's interests are constantly protected and concealed from the American people who could oversee them.
So I'm interested, John, to get your take on all of that. And it certainly seems everything about this thing seems suspicious. He's definitely. Do you think he? What do you think about it? And do you think he was somehow a victim of mind control?
I've read what you've read and what Mike Benz has read. It's my understanding that what we just heard from Mike Benz is true.
Okay.
Mind control, I don't know. It's possible. I've also read that he had long-standing mental illness, something he struggled with for years. But, even if he was mentally ill, the issue is people like him are attractive to the CIA because the CIA does need a patsy when they do these operations. They do need that element of denial where they can just say, no, it wasn't us. It was this nut from North Carolina. Look, he's got a long history of mental illness. We didn't know what he was doing. He came to us and we said, no, you're nuts. We don't want to work with you. Well, in fact, they probably had been working with him for years. So, yeah, I think what Mike Benz is telling us in this clip is true, that this is exactly the kind of person that the CIA wants to deal with because it allows them plausible deniability. And every once in a while, they really are nuts and they get themselves into trouble.
And so you think that's what happened? He really was nuts and he got himself into trouble?
I do. The darker one, though, is what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. So what's
his parents were behavioral therapists, so that means guilty to me of 100% MK.
So
Butler, Pennsylvania is the first town immediately adjacent to my hometown.
Oh, no kidding.
So I went to the Butler Fair and Farm Show every single year when I was growing up. We all knew the Butler Fairgrounds. We all knew about the flatness of the roofs, for example. That building that the kid, I forget his name, was on, that's where they show the cows and the hogs and the goats and the sheep, and you walk through and they have a blue ribbon and a yellow ribbon and whatever. Anybody who knows anything about a fairgrounds knows that you need to check the roofs. The roofs are slightly slanted, so it's easy to get up there. It's easy to stay up there and not risk falling off. And they're low, which makes the shot easier. At the very least, why not send up a $25 drone that you can buy at Best Buy or Target that my kid has with a little camera on it? Just send up a drone and see if there's anybody on the roof. And they didn't bother to do that. I said earlier that one of the unfortunate truths is that so many government workers in positions of import have their heads up their asses. But that can't be the excuse every single time. right?
Right.
It can't.
Are you aware, John, that a lot of them were HHS on loan and not actual Secret Service, and that's why you had fat lunch ladies?
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. That's what happened. And then they say, well, you know, the Secret Service has been in this period of turmoil, and there's been turnover in leadership. And no, come on. The Secret Service has been around since, what, 1878, right? 1878.
It has?
You think they'd have their act together by now? Come on.
Well, Kimberly Cheadle's the COG chick that took Cheney down into the underground bunker the day he shot that plane out of the sky. Remember?
That's right.
That's how. This guy, another thing about him, his son, as you know, went down for running a child pornography network. He's got the trademark 2-color hair of the monarch slave. Why would he be in charge of running anything in other countries for the CIA when he comes off like he's Forrest Gump, frankly, like a slowpoke? He looks like a hypnotic idiot is what he looks like. But they put him in charge of all this stuff of recruiting. Who would he recruit?
You know, I gotta take the opportunity to take a slap at Malcolm Nance too.
Okay.
Malcolm Nance is this guy's the MSNBC counterterrorism consultant.
He went. Didn't he even go to fight in Ukraine?
He went to fight, and when he got there and released the picture of himself with his M4, it had no magazine in it. It was just a prop, and he was on the Polish border. He was nowhere near the fighting. But that's who the agency attracts. They want Americans. They want to attract Americans who are willing to be played and who are willing to be used. And sometimes they're smart enough to monetize it, like Malcolm Nance. And sometimes they're morons like this guy, and they just lose everything and have to stab themselves in the neck with a pen when they're found guilty of trying to kill the president.
Well, sometimes they're a kid whose family got caught doing something, like Kathy O'Brien said when she came on. That's
right.
And they get put in they're a CIA kid, and a bunch of them, he's about the right age, are still rattling around. I bet you that Slovakian president, I never forget that when the Slovakian president, we did that story.
Yes.
And he wanted to look into Pfizer and Ukraine.
Yeah, Next and then thing he gets stabbed in the stomach.
I thought he got shot.
No,
I go,
shot in the head.
get shot?
Oh, was he shot?
Yeah, he got shot in the head.
A 72-year-old man with no history of violence for no reason just shoots him. And it was this before I knew the amount of stuff I know about it now. That Smith-Muntak thing you told us about, which ruined my, life, by the way, hearing about. It turns out they're balls deep in a lot of stuff. And these kind of idiots remind me of the kind of idiot that would be dating a furry that you could program over Discord to go take a shot at Charlie Kirk to make him a useful martyr for a larger entity that was paying for him. Like, this is proprietary technology, I was told, by an ex-victim of it. That means corporate people got it. That means state actors got it. Mm-hmm. And I bet you there's like old models just rattling around like this.
I bet that's the case. Look at MKUltra, MK Monarch, MK Chickwit, MK Worthington, all these operations that were sub operations of MKUltra. When the CIA, and I'll tell you how it started. It started because of a disinformation campaign run by the Russians. So the Russians had a mole, right? And they knew there was a CIA mole amongst them. So they spread this rumor that the Russians had made incredible progress in the area of mind control. And that
it's not North Korea? It wasn't the Korea thing?
They said that the Koreans were involved, the Chinese were involved, that there were these different programs going on at the time that allowed them to sort of approach the threshold where they were going to be able to create a Manchurian candidate. Word got back to the CIA. Oh my God, they said, we're behind. And they panicked. And that's what led to the creation of MKUltra. So they started with this new invention from Switzerland called LSD. Let's try dosing people with LSD. Well, who should we dose? Let's dose our own employees and see what they do. Well, what they do is they jump off the roof of the hotel that they're staying in, or off the balcony, and they commit suicide. So that was a bad idea. Okay, let's cut the dose. Well, who should we experiment on next? Well, why don't we recruit a bunch of prostitutes in San Francisco? We'll have them pick up Johns. We'll dose the Johns, bring them back to a CIA safe house in San Francisco, and see if they tell us their innermost secrets. No, they just went nuts. And then they had to release them back onto the streets of San Francisco until they're sane again. And then they said, well, what if we come up with a germ? We'll engineer a germ and we'll just push it into the air and see if everybody or anybody gets sick from this germ. Well, let's do it in San Francisco because it's foggy in San Francisco. We already have this safe house that we run the prostitutes from. They put this germ. They waited until an unusually foggy day. They pushed this germ out into the fog. And sure enough, 2 days later, 11 people have to go to the emergency room of various hospitals with this rare, not seen before upper respiratory infection. But it didn't get them any closer to mind control or ESP or remote viewing and remote sensing and all this other bullshit because it didn't exist. It was an operation that the Russians had come up with, and we bought it hook, line, and sinker because of our obsession with communism.
And so
I thought the Nazis brought their know-how over when we saved a bunch of them Nazis after the war, such as
we gave them all visas. Gave them all visas. Half of them are buried in Alexandria, Virginia now.
Well, when they learned in this very real thing, MK Monarch, that they say is real, they learned that that's Monarch Butterfly's generational trauma.
That's right.
So, no, mind control is real. The part that they're ahead of us over there is a lie, obviously, much like direct energy weapons.
Yeah, right.
Cuba has a direct energy weapon that we don't have, and they're using it on other people.
Oh, my God.
So, no, that stuff goes back. Did the Secret Service originate when Andrew Jackson had an attempt on his life? Is that where it came from?
It was after the Lincoln assassination. The first, I'm writing a book on, I've written a book, it's coming out next month, on the historic cemeteries of Washington, D.C. And in Congressional Cemetery in Southeast Washington, the very first head of the Secret Service, who had been Lincoln's Pinkerton guard during the 1860 and 1864 elections, became the first head of the Secret Service.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, funny, huh?
Pinkerton guard. That's amazing.
Well, the thing about an actor killing him, I always find interesting, because when I used to see Sasha go into character, Sasha's a very, I would say, almost like afraid guy. Like, he made an assistant take driving lessons to drive him around safer. But in character, he would never break, other than the time, in Israel. Yeah. He would never break, and he was gone. The dude was gone. And it was the most eerie thing I've ever seen. And the other writer goes, boy, that's creepy as hell, isn't it, when he does that? Because he's in character.
Yeah.
So John Wilkes Booth was an actor. Yeah. All these people have this thing about them where they look like fucked up Disney kids. So that's where the hypnosis, and I think the mind control works real well. And my evidence for that is no one can remember anything from more than a goddamn month ago that I talked to. And I don't think that's normal. And now we know chemtrails are real. They came out and said that's geoengineering now. It turns out the fluoride does fuck your brain up. The goal of every society, Gore Vidal said, is total control. And that's what that guy, who's the guy said, when you believe everything wrong, we know we did our job.
Yeah, William.
Did he get killed, I believe? Bill Colby.
Bill Colby.
The head of the CIA.
They got wind-up toy assassins, Sirhans, all over the place.
He's one of the best examples.
So he doesn't even, and he doesn't remember doing it.
He doesn't remember.
So,
and we know that the CIA was experimenting at one of the community colleges, I don't remember which one it is, here in Los Angeles, when he was enrolled at that university.
Oh, no kidding.
No,
so
we don't know.
James Holmes?
And I'll tell you why we don't know if he was specifically MKUltra, because after Frank Church directly told the CIA director, do not destroy the documents, he went straight back to headquarters and told them, destroy everything. So we only have about 20% of the MKUltra documents.
I'm sure they stopped.
Yeah.
I'm sure they stopped doing that and didn't perfect it.
They had to piece it together through some of the financial records that were left over, right?
That's right.
And so you're not saying that the CIA and the deep state doesn't have a mind control program. They do, right?
I would have to assume that they do. I mean, otherwise, why have a Directorate of Science and Technology? Why spend millions of dollars to start up Palantir and these other super secret high tech companies?
Okay,
they got to be working on something.
Yeah, I'm with you. So, do you have to go? It's 5:39.
I do.
Okay.
I apologize.
I'm sorry we had that technical problem. There are so many more things I wanted to ask you about.
So good to see you, though.
Great to see you too. All right.
God, very interesting, man.
Good to see you.
I appreciate you coming in. And when your book comes out, please come on. We'd love
I'd love to
have you. So Utah and Florida just passed bills to ban fluoride in the water supply. Why are all these states suddenly doing a massive U-turn on fluoride when they've been adding it to our water for the last 80 years? Well, RFK Jr. has been warning us about fluoride for a while, and the government now admits to the fact that fluoride is linked to lower IQ. In a study done by JAMA Pediatrics, one of the top medical journals, scientists found that fluoride levels over 2 milligrams per liter of water cause more than a 2-point drop in children's IQ scores. That's why we use Cove Pure to purify our water. Cove Pure is an awesome water filtration system that sits on your countertop. You don't have to drill any holes or call a plumber to set it up. You just fill it up with tap water, plug it in, and it gets straight to work. Their Clearwave reverse osmosis technology is lab certified to remove up to 99.9% of impurities in your water. Anything that isn't water, meaning fluoride, arsenic, or forever chemicals, all of that gets filtered out, leaving you with pure water. And let me tell you, once you try Cove Pure water, you're never going back. It's the best tasting water I've ever had. Plus, what I love about Cove Pure is it lets you have water exactly the way you want it. Whatever temperature you want, just push a button. Cold, hot, warm, whatever. If you happen to like fluoride, that's totally fine. There are tons of ways you can get that, through toothpaste or mouthwash, but the government should never force you to ingest it. So take back your right to choose. Click the link in my description box, covepure.com/Jimmy, and for a limited time only, you'll get a special discount of $200 off Cove Pure. That's covepure.com/JIMMY. Come see me on tour in Hermosa Beach, Sacramento, San Francisco, Melbourne, Australia, Sydney, Australia, Brisbane, Burbank, California the day after Thanksgiving, and Pottstown, Pennsylvania. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.